Think you can recognize the most legendary rock gods who conquered stages across multiple decades? We're back with another collection of rock royalty who didn't just define their era, but influenced every generation that followed. You'll see a recent photo of these rock titans, legends who once commanded every stage from small clubs to massive stadiums, and get 5 seconds to guess who it is. Then we reveal them in their prime from their most unforgettable music video moments. Keep score as you go and share your results in the comments. Let's get started. That's the guitar wizard himself, Eddie Van Halen's frontman, David Lee Roth, whose acrobatic stage presence included martial arts kicks learned from actual ninjas he hired as personal trainers during Van Halen's peak years. He later became a licensed EMT and worked as a paramedic in New York City, proving that rock stars can save lives both on and off stage. He's 70 in 2025. Here's the prog rock master. That's Rush's Alex Lifeson, whose guitar work seamlessly blended progressive complexity with accessible melodies and whose amp collection requires a warehouse to store properly. He learned classical guitar before switching to electric, giving Rush's music a sophistication that separated them from typical hard rock bands. And he still practices scales daily like a conservatory student. In 2025, he's 72. You're witnessing the voice of arena rock itself. That's Foreigner's Lou Gramm, whose soaring vocals define stadium anthems and whose 4-octave range could fill the largest venues without amplification. He co-wrote most of Foreigner's massive hits, and his vocal techniques are still taught in music schools as examples of perfect rock singing form. He's 75 in 2025. Behold the guitar hero himself. That's Yngwie Malmsteen, whose neoclassical shredding technique was so fast that early music videos had to be slowed down because cameras couldn't capture his finger movements at normal speed. He practices 8 hours daily and owns over 100 vintage Stratocasters, each tuned to different keys for specific compositions. In 2025, he's 62. You're looking at rock royalty. That's Heart's Nancy Wilson, whose guitar work shattered the glass ceiling and whose sister Ann proved that women could rock just as hard as any male band. She influenced every female guitarist who followed, and her acoustic arrangements on Crazy on You remain textbook examples of perfect song construction. She's 71 in 2025. That's the guitar virtuoso, Joe Satriani, whose instrumental compositions proved that rock music didn't need vocals to tell compelling stories, and whose technical innovations influenced every shred guitarist who followed. He taught guitar to Kirk Hammett, Steve Vai, and dozens of other future superstars, making him rock's most successful mentor. He's 68 in 2025. Here's the power ballad king. That's White Lion's Mike Tramp, whose Danish accent never fully disappeared, despite decades of American rock stardom, and whose Wait became one of the 80s most enduring love songs. He survived the hair metal crash by embracing acoustic songwriting and proved that authentic emotion transcends musical trends. In 2025, he's 63. Witness the guitar architect. That's Thin Lizzy's Scott Gorham, whose twin guitar harmonies with Phil Lynott created the template for every metal band that followed and whose American perspective brought blues influences to Irish rock. He's the only American member of Ireland's greatest rock band and still tours with various Thin Lizzy lineups worldwide. He's 73 in 2025. You're seeing pure vocal power. That's Rainbow's Lynn Turner, whose voice soared over Ritchie Blackmore's thunderous guitar work and whose range spanned 4 octaves without studio assistance. He later fronted Deep Purple and Yngwie Malmsteen's band, proving that great voices can adapt to any musical context while maintaining their distinctive character. In 2025, he's 73. That's the rhythm master himself. That's the Who's John Entwistle, known as the Ox for his stoic stage presence, and whose bass lines were so complex that music schools still use them to teach advanced theory. He stood motionless during performances, yet created the most intricate bass parts in rock history. He passed away in 2002. That's the guitar innovator, Steve Stevens, whose work with Billy Idol created the perfect fusion of punk energy and guitar virtuosity, and whose Rebel Yell solo remains one of the most recognizable guitar moments in 80s rock. He can play multiple instruments, and his technical skills span classical, jazz, and heavy metal with equal mastery. He's 66 in 2025. You're witnessing the wild child himself, Vince Neil of Mötley Crüe, whose partying was so legendary that the band's insurance company required a Vince clause in their policies, and whose voice could soar from whispered ballads to arena-shaking screams. He could drink an entire bottle of Jack Daniels and still hit every high note in Home Sweet Home, though his liver probably wishes he hadn't proven that so many times. He's 64 in 2025. Behold the metal machine that's accepts Udo Dirkschneider, whose distinctive voice powered German metal's international breakthrough, and whose Balls to the Wall became heavy metal's most unlikely anthem. His voice is so distinctive that fans can identify Accept songs within 3 notes, and he's never used vocal coaches despite decades of touring. In 2025, he's 73. You're witnessing pure rock and roll chaos. That's Guns N' Roses' Axl Rose, whose 5-octave range is matched only by his legendary perfectionism that delayed Chinese democracy for 14 years, and whose volatile stage presence could turn concerts into religious experiences or complete disasters. He once started a concert 4 hours late because his pre-show meditation ritual wasn't complete, and his snake dance moves were inspired by actual serpent documentaries he studied obsessively. In 2025, he's 63. Here's the guitar legend. That's Scorpions' Rudolf Schenker, whose rhythm guitar work provided the foundation for his brother Michael's lead solos, and whose songwriting created anthems that united audiences across political divides. He's played the same flying V guitar for over 40 years and claims it contains the spirit of rock and roll. He's 76 in 2025. You're witnessing the prog rock architect. That's King Crimson's Adrian Belew, whose innovative guitar techniques included using household objects as picks, and whose work with Talking Heads, David Bowie, and Frank Zappa showcased incredible versatility. He can make his guitar sound like elephants, whales, or industrial machinery, using only effects, pedals, and creativity. He's 75 in 2025. That's the theatrical genius, Alice Cooper, who invented shock rock decades before anyone else dared, and whose elaborate stage shows featuring guillotines and live snakes required special permits from fire departments. He's been completely sober for over 40 years and plays golf daily, proving that even the wildest performers can find peace. He's 77 in 2025. Here's the guitar hero. That's Dio's Craig Goldy, whose neoclassical techniques complemented Ronnie James Dio's operatic vocals perfectly, and whose guitar solos could transport listeners to mythical realms that match Dio's lyrical fantasies. He studied classical composition and applies Baroque principles to heavy metal arrangements with stunning results. In 2025, he's 64. You're looking at the voice of rebellion. That's Twisted Sister's J.J. French, whose rhythm guitar work provided the foundation for Dee Snider's theatrical vocals and whose business acumen helped navigate the music industry's treacherous waters. He's also a successful music industry consultant and proves that rock stars can be brilliant businessmen. He's 72 in 2025. Witness the metal pioneer. That's Saxon's Biff Byford, whose voice powered the new wave of British heavy metal and whose blue-collar lyrics connected with working-class audiences worldwide. He's never missed a show due to illness in over 40 years of touring and claims that singing keeps his voice stronger than any vocal coach could. He's 74 in 2025. You're seeing the guitar legend. That's UFO's Vinnie Moore, whose technical precision and melodic sensibility influenced every neoclassical guitarist who followed and whose speed-picking techniques are still studied by music students worldwide. He practices scales for 2 hours daily and can play complex classical pieces on electric guitar without amplification. In 2025, he's 62. That's the rhythm powerhouse. That's Def Leppard's Rick Savage, whose bass work anchored the band's massive sound and whose backing vocals were essential to their trademark harmonies. He learned to play bass specifically to join Def Leppard and has never played with any other band, showing incredible loyalty in an industry known for lineup changes. He's 64 in 2025. So how many of these rock legends did you recognize? Drop your score in the comments. Bonus points if you can name the specific albums or legendary solos we referenced. These masters didn't just play music, they crafted the blueprint for rock excellence that continues to inspire new generations of musicians. If you have enjoyed the video, please like and share with friends. See you in the next one.